Hello, this video is going to talk about this assessment tools assignment. So remember, for week 8 we're not having class. We are mostly covering the assessment tools assignment, and then there will be another video that talks a little bit about checklists and work samples. So let's start here. This assessment tools assignment is meant to be an individual research project. Now, and when I mean research, it means you're not going to actually write a research paper, but you're going to use your book and your internet to be able to answer the questions that are on the assignment. So you can use any resources you want. I have provided some, but again, you can use your book, the internet, whatever works for you. I'm going to open it up, and this assignment really covers several of our course learning outcomes. So there's quite a few pieces to this. The idea being, as we look at this, that you're working on being able to select appropriate strategies for collecting and measuring and monitoring your data so that you can decide what work you're going to do with the children. Next, of course. In this assignment, you will research a variety of screening and assessment tools and compare and contrast their roles in supporting children's development and learning, the instructional process, and supporting and engaging families in the assessment process. We haven't talked a lot about engaging families at this point because of where we are in the semester. We have talked a little bit about sharing assessment data with families during parent-teacher conferences. There's many other times when, of course, when you can do it as well. And we did talk a little bit about having parents be one of the windows that we use to gain information about the child from. So that's important to remember. All right, so section A is about screening tools. And it says, choose 2 of the screening tools provided below. Complete the chart using what you know about best practices for assessment in early childhood and results from your research on each screening tool. It says, note, copy and paste the chart into a new Word document. Complete your answers, save, and submit on Canvas. And actually, you probably don't have to even copy and paste into a new Word document. If you want to fill in your answers right on this, that's fine. So the difference between a screener and a curriculum assessment or another type of developmental assessment, a screener is kind of it's an abbreviated assessment. It's a big picture development. So like the Bergantz, the early learning scale, and the HELP are all going to be looking at kind of big picture development types of things. All of these are published all of these are published assessments, which is different than the assessment tools that we talked about in class the last 2, for checklists and for anecdotal records. Those are different assessment tools. This is more like a system. It's a published system. So your job then is to go out to the internet and research the Bergantz, the early learning scale, the Hawaii Early Learning Profile. Now notice you only have to choose 2. You don't have to do all 3, you just do 2. And so here for screening tool 1, you need to fill in, like if you're doing the Bergantz, you're going to write that here. If you're doing the early learning scale, you'll write that here. Then as you're doing your research, you need to come up with the purpose of the tool. Why does the Bergantz exist? What age or developmental levels is it designed for? Strengths and challenges in terms of cultural and linguistic responsiveness. So what are people saying about the tool? Does it come in multiple languages? Is it bias-free? Those sorts of things. Describe how the data generated from the instrument can be used to support children's development and learning. So basically, the whole idea here is once you have your data, what can you do with it, with using that tool? And then describe how the data generated from the instrument can be used to support the instructional process. So if you use that type of screener. Say, for example, when a child comes into your program and you're trying to get a baseline developmental profile on that child, how can you use it then to support development and then to help you plan activities for that child? So that's that section. Then the next section is looking at curriculum assessment systems. So this is where a program has purchased a curriculum like HighScope, the work sampling system, or Teaching Strategies. Teaching Strategies goes with the creative curriculum. And so these assessment systems then are assessing the curriculum and how well the children are doing meeting those curricular goals. So these are going to be tied to like our standards and our guidelines, our early learning and development standards from the state and the guidelines. So again, you're going to go research these and do the purpose, the age and developmental levels, strengths and challenges in terms of culture and language, how we can use it to support development and learning and the instructional process. And I'm really just looking for basic answers here. This is really just an opportunity for you to dive into some other screeners and some other assessment tools that we aren't going to have time to cover in class, and for you to just get a basic idea of how they all work. Then for section C, you're going to take a look and choose 4 of the assessment tools provided below. The majority of the information for these is going to be able to come from the chapter in your book on assessment tools. For example, we've talked about anecdotal records and checklists, and those are both on this list. You have to choose 4. So again, you should be able to go to your book and answer the questions. Again, you need to fill in the name of the tool. So here you might put anecdotal record, checklist, frequency count, time sampling, so I know which one that you have researched. Again, all of the same questions that you were using above. Use your book for examples and feel free to use any of the websites on the internet that might give you information for it as well. All right, so section D, the reflection part, is really designed for me to tell if you can apply the information that you have learned about choosing these tools to real life classroom situations. So when we're looking at assessment types up here, it says compare and contrast the assessment types. How did they provide different data? So the assessment types were screeners, and then there were the curriculum assessment. So one was looking at whole child development, one was looking at how children were meeting the goals of the curriculum. What assessment types would you use to collect instructional data to inform future instruction? Describe how data generated from the instrument can be used to support development and learning based on state guidelines. For example, if you look at Teaching Strategies Gold, they are all tied to the Illinois Early Learning and Development Standards. So there you go. Assessment strategies. What strategies would you employ to use the information you obtained from these goals to engage families? So how would you engage families using any of these? What strategies would you use prior to instrument implementation to ensure families are fully engaged in the observation, screening, and assessment process? So that is, like, what's your plan for engaging families in any one of these? Remember, we want them to be one of the windows that we use, one of the measures, one of the windows that we use to gain information about the child. So how could you use any one of these to be able to engage families that way? And then think about how you would organize the data. Would you use the data, and how would you use it to inform classroom instruction? I'm going to give you a little hint here that if you're using a published curriculum assessment like Teaching Strategies Gold, it's going to already have a program in it that you can enter the data into. The harder part is, how are you going to implement like anecdotal records checklists and keep track of those? The answer probably is going to be something like figuring out how you can add that information into your already set up curriculum assessment system. Then just some basic use of assessment questions. How will you use assessment to differentiate instruction and intervention for children with special needs? Identify how information from families, coupled with the data collected and research-based practices, can be used to inform goals, including IEP goals, if children have them. IFSP is for children under 3. IEP is 3, no wait. Is it under 3? Under 3. Or IFSP is pre-K and IEP is kindergarten and up, I think. How will you use assessment to differentiate instruction and intervention for children who are working above their developmental levels? And again, that assessment is giving you the baseline for where they are in their development. And then you are figuring out ways to move them to the next level based on that assessment data. There's a lot here. It's a research project. Like I said, you have, I believe, around a month, not quite a month to complete it. It looks like it's due on the 28th. I would like it by the 28th. If you need some extra time to work on it after that, it's fine. I really need it by the end of the semester. If you have questions, if you don't understand what's being asked, if you're not sure where to look, please reach out. I'm happy to help you with it.